I've carried around this memory now for as long as Jesus walked the earth as a human being. Fittingly, it is my strongest and most lasting memory, and I'm sure everyone else who was there remembers it too. That is, the wedding banquet. I remember distinctly what I was doing at the time we were called into the great hall of meetings. I was being shown around heaven by several parentless children. Oh, yeah, before I get too far into the story, I'd like to mention that even though most of the sights and sounds are reserved for those there, I'm only allowed to write about certain aspects of heaven and what it contains, which is just as well, as it would be a tremendous challenge putting all that beauty into words. The first thing I noticed about heaven was that you knew and could see that it extended infinitely. But mainly, you could only see the parts that were significant for your perception of that moment. It was like being in a party room filled with more people and voices than anyone could clearly distinguish. But the only things you could see and hear are the only things that were important to you at that time. If you wanted to see a wide view of heaven, it was there instantly. Either that, or you were instantly in a place that provided such a view. Whatever suited your immediate needs is what is in heaven for those who are there. So there I was, with 3 children walking out of the courtyard, which I would estimate as being more than the size of the largest city on earth. Maybe even several of the largest cities placed side to side, if you want to get a good mental image of the courtyard. And that is one of the smaller areas. So anyway, we're leaving the major gathering area and making our way toward the angelic region when the call came. It was time for everyone to prepare themselves for the wedding banquet, which were very different preparations from the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So I make my way back to my room in Father's mansion, and there... No, I'm sorry, I just sense the Spirit urging me not to pursue that end of the memory. The descriptions of the personal possessions and treasures from Father are for the giver and receivers only. Everybody was given that which they earned and worked for. My gifts differ from that of others, but both are equally special and immeasurably more valuable than description allows. Suffice it to say that my house had more than I expected and as much as I needed. And these are just God's starter gifts. Okay, now, the whole body of believers, from Adam and Eve to those up until the last person ever raptured and the martyrs, they were all gathered into the courtyard, awaiting their placement at the table. I wish I had words to adequately describe the banquet hall, its fullness, and everything. Truth and beauty cannot be taken from the mind of the perceiver and placed into spoken or written words. It can only be imagined on a limited scale. And even with every color on earth, it would still only paint a very pale word picture. Like the difference between solid gold, as we are familiar with, and gold that has been heated and refined so many times, it has absolutely no impurities and so becomes clear as glass. Put these 2 pieces of precious metal next to each other, and you can see that what humans valued so was merely dirt in comparison. Heaven is pure clarity. So, now, we've all been seated in the usual order, first last and last first. The unlovable of the earth and the popular people among people both sat together, but were seated and served accordingly. This seemed to me as though it would have caused certain feelings in certain people, but this was not so. You see, closeness to God in terms of physical presence is based on how much one is like Jesus in terms of character and emotional closeness to the Father. Nothing more, nothing less. Everybody seated was given all they needed and worked for, and everybody knew this, and everybody automatically knew that even if they had been given nothing, their simple entrance into heaven would be cause enough to express eternal gratitude and thankfulness. Everyone was grateful for what they had been given because they knew it was more than they deserved. I thought many times on the items given to us in our place settings, but was only allowed to visualize one. The other heavenly possessions cannot be thought of and put into human words or concepts, even for us children who have looked upon them with our own eyes. They are reserved only for those in the heavenly realm. The only gift I can adequately describe is the wine goblets we were each given. Those who ventured to experiment found that this cup brought out hidden musical talents of those they belonged to. In much the same way a crystal glass can be made to sing with a damp finger circling its rim, this rim and outer adornments brought out singing in the individual. It was like it was tuned to the exact frequency of the holder, so that when they would speak or sing, it harmonized, creating music pleasing to even those who were tone-deaf and off-key singers like me. It is impossible to do anything unpleasant there in heaven. So now we're creating music that seemed to be visually displayed throughout the heavens, while being waited on by the angelic hosts and other heavenly beings. Then it came time for the groom to enter into the union with the bride. The service that followed I am unable to once again place into words, describing its true glory and infinite beauty. Another limited analogy would be that of taking every good, proper, and wonderful emotion and feeling and putting them into a single new concept for people to experience, a visual experience of proper feelings, a service of pure emotion and a ceremony of perfect feelings. I wish I could describe the ceremony, but you must experience it fully to appreciate it. Again, suffice it to say that when God throws a party for something so significant as his son's marriage to such an insignificant creation, the result is like taking a lost and dirty coin and turning it back into mint condition. However, in this case, the restored coin is even better off for having the dirt and lostness than if it had stayed in its original state. The lessons learned from the negative experience prove to strengthen, substantiate, reinforce, and forge the coin into something more infinitely precious in God's eyes. A will given over to rejecting all wrongdoing and choosing all that which is right. So basically, the wedding ceremony and marriage blended our humanity in perfect harmony with God's own spiritual nature and presence. And it created a whole new kind of being, one lower than the substance of God, naturally, and yet greater than that of the angels, which had always been greater than that of humankind. I guess if I were to rank things on a scale, I would put God as being the scale, meaning immeasurable. But out of 10, Jesus would be a 10, a one-celled creature as 1, ordinary flesh and blood human beings at 5, angels and other heavenly beings at 7 and 8, and we, the now physically regenerated, are now a 9. I think that would come close to a general measuring scale of the things and life in the universe. And not even being able to adequately describe the wedding banquet, I know we can't even come close to matching its beauty on earth. But I would like to begin thinking and planning about something similar in purpose and design. I think I mentioned it earlier. Anyway, I'm still thinking about a name for this wrap party. Maybe the Thanksgiving finale, or the creation celebration, or maybe even the out with the old order and in with the eternal order party, or something. I'll think of one. After all, I've got 1,000 years to plan it. I think that's it for the evening. Thank you, Spirit, for helping me put these thoughts into some fashion of order.